You've got two problems, and we're working on borrowed time here. First, there's no fuel in the engines. Second, the gravity centrifuge is offline, which means there's a couple of trillion tons of rock pulling us down. I need you to get that centrifuge operational. Refuel the main engine and fire it up so I can stabilize the ship's orbit.
Now that Chapter 3 has started, we are given several tasks. We could refuel the engines of the Ishimura or reestablish the centrifuge of the Ishimura, and if we don't do that, the Ishimura will crash onto the planet below, which is what I kind of want to do first, and mainly because there's less enemies we fight and it's just a bit more interesting. But we'll refuel the engines in several minutes from now. But that's what we are going to do right now.
Entering zero gravity.
In order to fix the centrifuge, we're going to have to attach those two machines down below. And then once that is established, we can pretty much repair the rest of the centrifuge. This is one of the more cooler rooms here in the Ishimura. There's a lot of big open space, so you can get to kill some of the leapers that you'll be encountering. Also here you get to look at some of the growth that's been developing within the Ishimura. And trust me when I say this, we're going to be seeing that very later in this chapter. So once you pretty much move into the open area, I like to go onto the roof because it's just more space to maneuver. Just use some of these barrels and they'll pretty much die instantly. And also don't forget, there are some of those little boxes, as you can see, that hold items that you would want to have with you. And just like that, they're pretty easy to kill.
Centrifuge activated. Reestablishing balance with planetary cargo. Gravity.
Now that the centrifuge is online again, the Ishimura can balance itself out, and at least it's not gonna crash into the planet below. One thing I admire from video games is that they don't tend to repeat sequences and just let it speak for itself. For example, right here, where you have to survive not being crushed by the centrifuge, you gotta avoid enemies, and you have to be mindful of your oxygen. So it's a nice bit of tension in this part of the game. But having said that, it's pretty easy. You know, just make sure you know what you're doing and you'll survive. Before I end this section, I want to point out the sound effects within this room. It's really cool because you're open into space, pretty much, you know, a vacuum. A lot of the sound effects is very soft and very muffled, which really adds a nice bit of detail onto the world. Stuff like that I really admire in video games. Unlike the sequences before us, this sequence is going to be repeated twice throughout the game. Just when you thought you were safe, a giant tentacle comes out of nowhere and starts to drag you. Just shoot the yellow spot and it's pretty much easy. This sequence will actually be repeated in Chapter 6 and Chapter 10, if I do remember. Even though it's easy, it's still a nice bit of tension right here. In this area of the game, we are going to refuel the engines for the Ishimura so we can take off. However, like every other place in this game, it's not going to be very easy, as you're going to see in a moment. But one really cool thing about this area in the game is that you really get a great sense of the sound design for this game made by Redwood Studios. And it's really amazing stuff. For example, you can actually hear the screams of nearby people, or I don't know if that's are actual screams or it's just Isaac's dementia starting to really settle into him. You can hear like the metal wincing. You can hear like some necromorphs off in the distance. You can hear loud growls and moans. It's pretty amazing stuff, and you know, kudos to them for making great use of sounds throughout this game. As you can see here, I'm taking a tram across so I could begin the refueling process for the Ishimura itself. And in this next area right here, I'm going to be fighting off a couple of necromorphs, and I made two big mistakes right off the bat here. My first mistake comes in the form that there are some red barrels in that vicinity right there that I could have used. I could have shot the barrels to destroy the necromorphs, or use kinesis to get one and launch them into one of the necromorphs. But I didn't, so that's my first mistake. But my next mistake comes in the form of right here. I didn't make sure that one of the necromorphs was really dead, and that's one thing about this game. You have to know that the necromorphs are dead, otherwise they're gonna come back and get you, as you're gonna see right now. And before this clip is over, I will be showing a little bit of the sound design in the next clip you're gonna see right now, after this is over.
Refueling sequence activated. Sufficient fuel to fire primary engine.
Whatever you did, it's working, Isaac. I have a fuel reading. It's only a quarter full, but that's enough to restore orbit once you bring the engines online. What the hell? False alarm. Thought I saw something.
Isaac! Can you hear me? It's Kendra. They attacked me, I ran for it, and Hammond he just disappeared.
Kendra? Where are you?
Nice to see you're alive and well, Hammond. I've barricaded myself in the computer core. I can hear them moving outside, but I don't think they know I'm in here. I can launch into everything from here. I hacked the route and found some reports from the colony. Even before they cracked the planet, the colonists were experiencing widespread dementia. It seems to be related to some artifact they found on the planet. Something called the Marker. I'll keep looking. I've got your location, and I'm going to unlock the door to fuel storage. You can get to the engine chamber from there.
As we make our way to turning on the engines of the Ishimura, we are introduced to a lot more of the growth that's occurring throughout the Ishimura itself. It's really nasty stuff, and that's one really cool thing about this game. But one aspect of this mass that I found really interesting is these poor individuals right here that are slowly being assimilated into the mass itself. However, you can also argue that they might become guardians, and that's an enemy type that will be introduced later on in the game. And there is that speculation. But there's not much you can really do. When you shine your light at them, they kind of react to it. And you can kill them, which you can't seem to kill this guy, and I don't want to waste my ammo on him. I mean, on one hand, I should, to put him out of his misery, but I didn't do it, so, yeah. We are about to enter the room to where we can ignite the engines for the Ishimura. However, because it's a big and large room, that means there are necromorphs waiting for us on the other side. But before I go, I like just watching these necromorphs walk around. As a matter of fact, once you enter the room, they actually aggro and will try to attack you. But if you don't, you can just sit back and just look at them just walking around. It's kind of interesting. As a matter of fact, they will aggro you once one of them gets near me, as you're going to see in a moment. As a matter of fact, once I ignite the engines, more necromorphs will show up. So that's one thing I have to get ready for, which is good because there are red barrels scattered around this room, so I can just get them out all in the open. So once they do show up, I'll be ready for them, like what I'm about to do right now with this necromorph. But before that happens, we will be introduced to a new enemy type, and that is the Pregnant. And the Pregnant are very dangerous, mainly because they have a huge stomach that is exposed, and if one shot, they will release their offspring, if that makes any sense, which are these little critters, a whole bunch of them, that will easily swarm you if you're not careful. And not only that, they take a while to kill, and you'll pretty much just be wasting your ammo, which is not a good thing to do.
Ignition sequence initiated. Please stand by. Engines ready. Please confirm ignition.
It's working. We're online and functional. Finally, some good news. Get a tram to the bridge, Isaac. I'm gonna take us back into a geostation.
Wait, we're not safe yet. Ship's asteroid defense system is offline. On the way up, the ship's going to pass through a debris field thrown up from the planet crack. We'll be ripped to pieces unless you restart it.
God damn it. I'll start working on it from here. Isaac, meet me at the bridge. You can do more good here than I can.
And that is it for this chapter, and a very good chapter in my honest opinion. Before I go, I just want to say that it kind of sucks in these early levels where your inventory is not to full capacity, so I'm going to be using kinesis to bring all this material with me. So yeah, once I upgraded it to full capacity, I won't have to worry about that anymore. Oh well. Hey, it's a survival horror game after all. I'll see you in chapter 4.
Isaac, where are you? It's me, Nicole.